Yes, YouTube, hope that you're good. It's Ben Hawksworth at The Coach Consultant, and today I'm going to be talking about how do you think and operate like a CEO. So this is all about you. At the end of the day, what you've got to take into account is you can have the best team, the best client base, the best community. You can have the best of absolutely everything, but bottom line, this will come down to how much you lead, you influence, and you inspire the people around you when it comes to someone who's a very small role in a company, to someone who's big down the line, to client bases, to your content creation, to absolutely everything. How you look at business and how you conduct yourself and your behaviors and your actions will directly correlate to the success that you create. So that is basically what I want to talk about today. So I've got around, I think, 10 or 12 different points that I'm going to talk through in terms of mindset. How do you actually think like a CEO? How do you operate and how do you behave? So number one is going to be command, right? The balance between commanding more. So you cannot command respect, right? You earn respect. So what I've put down onto here is commanding more versus influencing more. Influencing more means that you don't actually need to come in and tell someone to do something or force someone to do something. The influence and charisma and energy that you actually have as a person and as a professional will actually enable someone to actually get to a point of being influenced, feeling empowered, feeling motivated, and basically doing what you want them to do without you actually having to tell them. So influence is something that needs to be formulated over time, and I love the topic of influence because influence is something that you don't just click your fingers and you suddenly get. Influence is something that is generated and is earned over a sustained period of time. So for example, my company is called Do It Right? So in terms of my company message, so do it right to me is really, really, really important because I know that people believe in that, and it's also really, really clear that I believe in that. So my message enforces people to do it right, and that's basically what I believe in above absolutely anything in business and life, like being a good person, doing the right thing, making it actually make sense, making it actually fucking be logical. And it's that type of message that creates influence. So I've had so many clients who signed up with us, and I go, what's the number one reason you actually signed up? Do it right. Right, that's influence, right? So when you're looking at your company now and your content creation, I want you to think about how are you actually putting yourself across personally? How are you getting people bought into what your message is? Because that for me is the first starting point to actually starting to get influence through. The next one is to start thinking in, if I can get this piece of paper, sorry. The next one is to start thinking in months, right? Stop thinking in days. There's nothing that you can do in the next 24 hours, 48 hours that's suddenly going to change the game and you suddenly become a millionaire. This is basically where people have this mindset where they make decisions on hours and days rather than thinking about the impact that it actually has over a sustained period of time. So one of the biggest problems that I've seen with this one in the fitness industry is where people are in essence burning their audiences. So I've had a fair few clients where people have gone through the setting, gone through the DMs, gone to retarget warm lead magnets for new opt-ins, and they've basically messaged and followed up with every single person on a cold basis like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And what you've got to take into account there is if that's not worked, you need to think about changing what you're doing because that's thinking in days. How do I get as many calls booked as possible in the next 5 days rather than going, actually, what is the detrimental effect of this to the masses over a sustained period of time? That's where you start thinking in months because you think, actually, wait, I need to change what I'm doing here because what I'm doing is currently not working. The exact same when it comes to content creation, when it comes to building and cementing a new offer, when it comes to launching a new brand, when it comes to adjusting your company or hiring. Thinking in months will disable you from to be, in essence, being really, really reactive. And if you're reactive, you're not going to get anywhere in business. We need to stay proactive, which is actually one what I'm going to talk about in a second of room on its slides. But in essence, guys, that basically encompasses that, look, when you're making decisions for yourself and for your business, stop making it based on, right, reactivity. What can I get in the next 2 days? Think about, right, what influence and what impact is this going to have over a sustained period of time? The next one from that point is £10 tasks versus £1,000 tasks. So you may have seen this before, you may not have. So for example, a £10 tasks for a CEO is not something that you should be doing. So for example, if you are that busy and you don't have time and you've obviously in the position where you've got the capital and cash flow to edit a reel or get someone to add in captions on, that's a £10 task. When it comes to building and scheduling an email or admin, that's a £10 task. You need to have the mindset of thinking, right, my time and my money needs to be going into £1,000 tasks, because if you don't have this type of mindset, then what's going to happen is you will become the bottleneck in your business because you are doing too much stuff on a low value basis rather than actually outsourcing outsourcing and delegating this to other people. So this is something that I really, really want you to heavily think about, is like, what are you currently doing on a day-to-day basis? That's like 10, 20, and it's obviously a single task, but over the course of a month, that might be hundreds. But in that individual task, is that just a tenner? Or is that even less? Or is it even more? Because in reality, this is why there are VAs. This is why there are setters. This is why there are video editors. This is why there are people who can come in and help you with admin. Because if you're in a position where you're trying to do loads of the small stuff, but trying to do the big stuff at the same time, it's the small stuff that's taking your time and attention away from the stuff that you need for your business, which is going to be the £1,000 tasks. Next up, guesswork, right? I'm massive on this. You've probably seen on previous YouTube videos how obsessed I am with KPIs and key performance indicators and metrics and management and dashboards. Because in reality, if you're not actually tracking your business and managing it based on that, then you are just completely guessing it. You're guessing everything. And if you're guessing something, it means that you are basically feeling really subjective. It's quite normally over biased. It's normally emotionally reactive. Whereas when you are making decisions, so for example, I have an acquisition and sales key performance indicator tracking sheet. I have business development key performance indicators tracking sheet and social media alongside different CRMs with Go Eye Level and everything else. But we will make decisions based on what the numbers are telling us, because if we are just guessing it and just thinking, right, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, is that actually right? Is it? You've got to really kind of look at the numbers and go, yeah, there's always got to be a point of human intuition, for example. But in reality, the more numbers that you are tracking, the bigger picture that you've got and the better you're going to be in terms of actual decision making and structures moving forward. So remove the guesswork, guys, and get KPIs into your business. Track absolutely everything, even if it feels really anal and really, really shit. Track absolutely everything. Go out of your way to make sure that you know your numbers, because if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. This is a slide that I've already ruined, but I'll talk over it again. So basically, we've got reactivity versus proactivity. So reactivity is where you will, in essence, you'll be faced with a problem, and you'll try and immediately get a solution, or you'll immediately react to it, or immediately do that. And you can see my mannerisms changing into stress, right? Whereas proactivity is where you will basically sit, you will understand, you will absorb, you'll basically kind of process this situation and actually think intuitively and go, right, what is the right thing to do in this situation? What is the best type of response, not reactivity? Because if you are reactive as a CEO and you have a mindset where you're reactive, that's going to be reactive to content creation, which is going to be a massive part of the company. It's going to be reactive towards the decisions you make for growth, which is going to hinder what you're doing. If you're reactive, it's going to be effective on your team and your clients. You need to stay in a position of professionalism, and you need to be proactive at all times. A CEO mindset alongside that will also drop the lone wolf mentality. Guys, you're speaking to the choir with this one. I used to have a lone wolf mentality, thinking that I could do absolutely everything myself. And then I hit a sticking point in business. Because I just wanted to keep it on my own, because I had trust issues and all that type of stuff that you do in your early 20s and mid 20s. But in reality, the moment that I dropped that and actually started to build out a dream team is when I started to build a dream business and building a dream life. There will be a certain point, guys, where you cannot do this alone. You will need to bring people into your company. You will need to get support with this. So please, 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 please do not think that you are just going to go alone on this forever and you're going to see infinite amount of growth, because there's a certain point within a coaching business, might be at 10K, 20K, 20K a month, that's when you really need to be hiring and outsourcing loads of little jobs. But this is not just about having a coaching team or a manager or an operations manager. This is about having a dream team who's going to help you with graphics, who's going to help you with emails, help you with video editing, help you with setting, help you with closing. Every single person who comes into your business, whether they are a major role working with clients or major role in marketing, acquisition, sales, whatever it may be, they're still part of your team, and you need to treat them like that type of dream team, because if they are happy, motivated and fulfilled, then they are going to go out of their way to deliver and perform for what the company needs. Next up, scaling at any cost. Again, speaking to the choir with this one. You can look after yourself. You can feel mentally great, physically great, emotionally great, low level stress while still scaling your business. Most of the time that when we are creating stress for ourselves, it's the fact that we're just creating stress out of nowhere, and it's basically perceived level effort that you just need to do more. Like if there's a point where, don't get me wrong, you're gonna have to scale and sacrifice a little bit, but if it's becoming really, really negative on your friendships, relationships, marriages, your physical health, your mental health, then you need to change what you're doing. That your business should support the life that you want. So I don't know if anyone follows a guy called Matt Gray. I think that Matt Gray and Rob Dance are my top two heroes in business at the moment based on what they put out. But Matt Gray put up a post the other day, and it was basically how it had a 3-stage process where it was number 1, peace, number 2, profit, number 3, purpose, right? Because I massively agree with that, because when you're in a state of peace, you are proactive, you are happy, you are fulfilled, you are content, and you're in a position where you've got a lot more clarity and confidence, which is literally the next slide I'm going to talk you through here. So once you've got peace with yourself in terms of how your business is running and how you're operating, then you need to focus on making sure that you've got enough profit, because if you don't have enough profit, then all of the effort that you're going to is completely fucking pointless. And then after that, that's when you can start to really bring purpose into it. But if you have peace for yourself, then everything else falls into line. Because if you don't have peace for yourself, you get stuck into this type of process where you've got grind and hustle versus clarity and confidence. Whenever you are grinding, hustling, output, you're never in a state of innovation. You're never in a state of creativity. You're never in a state of basically just feeling great about yourself. And I feel like making sure that you've got peace, you've got confidence, and you've got clarity is the core foundation to absolutely everything that we need. Because the grind and hustle mentality is going to be the fastest thing that leads you into burnout. And it's going to be the fastest thing that leads you into overcomplication of it, right? Biggest one. CEOs, right? A great CEO does not just have an offer alone. They will have an ecosystem behind their offer. So what I mean by an ecosystem is where you've got a collective amount of assets, structures, systems that will support that offer. Because anyone can come in and say, right, yeah, I've got an offer, I'm going to help you with X, Y, and Z and promise you 1, 2, 3, right? Anyone can come in and say that, right? Whereas great CEOs understand that from a mindset perspective, they need to completely and utterly, obsessively always improve their ecosystem down to the KPI, down to the staff member, down to the program, down to the milestone, down to the win, down to the SOP, the strategy, the system, the Google Drive, the management format. That is the type of ecosystem that you need to be building to really kind of scale a top level business, guys. So again, thinking like a CEO is so important. I absolutely love all this. This is why I have a weekly live call called Raw Talk, where we speak about the type of stuff that I'm pretty sure that nobody else speaks about in the fitness business mentoring, but it's the type of stuff that I know that you guys will be going through because I've been through it myself. And it's the type of stuff where, in essence, a lot of the time mindset is the one thing that does let us down, and it's not just a simple black and white answer. It's something that needs to be discussed and developed, and creating frameworks to overcome these situations. But looking at all those kind of key points that I've just made there, guys, if you go along those lines and maybe pick out 2 or 3, I can promise you, with over 10 years in business now and built out a 7-figure business from living in a council estate, do you know what I mean, to in my early 20s, I was in a bit of a worse situation than that, in all fairness, and I've bounced back and created kind of what I've done now 10 years later at 30 years old. So, and a lot of that come down to mindset, and it come down to mistakes that I've made, because I can promise you, for every single slide that I've just shown you there, I've made those mistakes. I've made them all, and that's exactly why I teach now, to avoid the type of stuff that I've done in my career as a person and as a professional. And I hope that you are taking as much value from this as I enjoy providing it to you guys. So if you do want support with anything associated with this or anything in your business, please feel free to drop me a message on Instagram at benhawksworth_, or if you want to book directly in or see the type of client results that we've got by doing it right and what we help people with content acquisition and sales, then all you need to do is hit the link somewhere around my bio in the channel, and I'll see you on the next video.